So the one thing I will say right off the bat, and I know everyone that's won it before can definitely say this, it is awesome to get to be crowned, but not necessarily for the reason you might think. Like, it's kind of neat to have people like look to you and help you and all that stuff, but it's also a bit off-putting sometimes for the question. Like, people will pick up on your stuff when you're normally getting. You can open doors. So there's a bit of that. However, the thing that's cool about it is you can do awesome things for the community. Like, the single best thing you can do as a crown is hand out awards to people and you get to see how happy. That is awesome. And really all you're really doing for that is so other people are writing them in, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. And then the scribes do their magic, and then the heralds do their magic, and you basically just hand the thing to a person, but it's just awesome to see. AOA or both sets of things, hands down, the best thing about it. So, but fighting-wise, we've got a variety of different perspectives. What I'm envisioning is like going through some of the bits real quick and then letting people ask questions because that's work for you guys too. So
No, I would not.
I am trying not to do the king is saying things and I don't shut up. So I was planning to go kind of last.
Okay, I just, because I bring a kind of different perspective. The only crown I fought in as a fighter was the recent monk. I have been a consort in armor.
One quick thing. Can everybody hear okay in here?
And if you want me to speak up,
No,
I can.
my thought was, we'll pick up our chairs, go in the hallway, and close the doors. Then we have a hallway, which is a lot.
I don't need to be in the front. I'm beyond that.
So, are you good with this room, or do you want to move like 6 feet that way and close the doors? This is good? Everybody can hear okay?
Your video's not going to hear.
It's okay. I just wanted to make sure that you guys could hear.
If you need me to speak up, because I hear myself better than I can hear what I'm saying. So I bring a little bit different perspective than these folks here. There are many different reasons to fight in Crown, or to be a consort in Crown. One is to actually be crowned, okay? That is not necessarily the only reason you may want to participate or fight in Crown tournament. And here, everybody fights in Crown, okay? I don't want to discourage anyone who thinks they don't have a chance to fight in Crown tournament, because it is a wonderful thing to participate and see, as a fighter, both to see what you can do on the field. Even if you're a mediocre fighter, you've been fighting just 1 year. Okay, I may get slammed, but I have that adrenaline rush. I have to see and participate against the best of the best. If at the same time you learn a whole lot more about what it is to prepare to be a crown and what goes into that process. You also get to put on a show. You get to be somebody for the populace. And that's not only a preparation for becoming crowned, but you get to participate in making something for the kingdom. It's not just about fighting or just about fighting and winning. And everyone who participates in Crown tournament as a fighter or consort, consider that when you prepare for participating in Crown. Not just if you win, but for the very fact of participating in Crown tournament. How are you going to make things good? How are you going to interact with the other couples that are participating? How do you get to know them? How are you going to interact with them? How are you going to make their day good? And how are you going to make the populace's day good? How are you going to show? How are you going to show for your consort? And how's your consort going to stand up for you? Make it a day. It's the greatest feeling in the world to do that. And you're going to learn how the kingdom is run to some extent. You have to understand, okay, I need a chamberlain. Oh my God, I need to think about it. Do we have passports? Who's going to cross the kingdom borders? I learned something about how the kingdom is run. What are the criteria for entering Crown? Oh, I need to know something about AMS. I need to know something about kingdom law. You learn a whole lot from participating in So don't hold back just because you may not win. You're not thinking of winning. Hell, you may not want to win, particularly this time around. At the same time, plagues occur. When you sign up, you don't know who you're going to be fighting. Okay? You enter, and there may be 5 other people in the or something, and you just rose to the top of the list. There may be gastroenteritis running through the field, and you may end up winning. Be prepared that it may occur. It may be, your odds may be 50-1, but you have to think about it. Okay? So those are my thoughts about how to, you have to think about preparing for that day, how you're going to make a show, how you're going to interact, learning about the time. At the same time, don't let it phase you in terms of what you do. And so there's more to crown than being crowned.
Thanks.
So this goes a little bit with Margalit's point. If you're going to fight in a crown, preparation is important. Go ahead and have their Chamberlain shows, have a rough idea who you want to be your champions. That way, by the time you do get to the tournament, you don't have to worry about it. It's already set up. Now say that you do win. You win. Okay. Where's the Chamberlain? Where'd my keys go? Excellent. Do I have time to change? Fantastic. Oh, we're going to have a Knights meeting. Really? I want to change. Fine. Yes, Your Majesty. Be prepared for that. As soon as that's done, then in comes the regalia minister. I have all this crap. What do you want? And you can say no. If it doesn't fit your car, there's no reason for you to take it.
But outside the middle, you kind of need your hats, you kind of need your chairs,
That's
banners. Outside that, you can work it out.
You can wear the hat home and you can pull your bucket seats out and put your phone in.
Certainly, that is an option.
I think that'll work in my car. But so be prepared that that's going to happen right away. And then you're going to go to the court meeting. And you're going to sit there. And you're going to be like, you don't do anything really. Okay, I can deal with that. That's cool. They're going to do their thing. We're going to come up, receive the hats if you decide to do it that way. And then we're going to sit down and we're going to smile. And we're going to smile. And then maybe we'll get to talk at the end. Probably. That's basic. But also having like your corner people or your pit crew also takes a lot of stress out. Like the Crown I won was great. All I did was walk up and I would say maybe one word, and they'd put water in my face, and I'd go fight. Amazing. I didn't have to think. The only thing I had to think about was that bout, and then on to the next. So have that also for that day. The less thinking you have to do, the better.
Sure. So there's somewhere around there, there's a list of like 50-something questions for preparing. Somebody's got it out there, controlling around local kingdoms, and it really works through a lot of the little things to mentally prepare for your organization, how you want your flavor text and your rain to go. Whether you're not, you see that preparation of the mindset of this is you're branding your own brand. So I think it's fun to go through, and then it's also with the consort because you might have completely different ideas of how that's going to go, and it's better to have that then way early on than, or I don't know, way later in the process when it's like, ooh, now we're fighting. But that's a possibility. Let's see here. For me, I put a lot of thought into the processions. I've always thought of the processional, watching crowds and being in crowds. That is essentially, that is your 30 to 45 seconds of showing the whole kingdom this is how your reign is it's going to go. It's your personality that's going to come into this. So when you got people who come in, they're total cyclists, they don't have any banners, and they come up and they're just really tough and everything. I'm like, okay, that's a fighter. That's all show. You know, that's all hit. No interesting things like, okay, well, that'll be an interesting ring. But you know, the idea is that yes, it's like the interview for the job. Showing you can do the job and getting the job and doing this. Obviously, the crowd is getting the job. Showing you can do the job is a completely different animal because this is generating that personality, how the popular is going to be around. Because after the fight events, it's all personality. And then the other thing I was thinking about was stretch goals for ground running. Absolutely go in with the mindset that you have potential to win. You never know how a fight's going to go. But at the same time, you should also have other goals, other winning conditions. Because this is the one time you're absolutely going to get people's aiming. This is how you test your aiming. And gives the other chances of being able to see how far you go. And then there's the whole lens. You know, anybody can throw a dart, but when there's $100 on the line, all of a sudden that nerves. It's testing the mental game as well as the physical. And actually, that's a much different animal, again, because you're testing yourself in different directions. Pretty much like it.
All good points. It is good to have Chamberlain of the Day. Most crowds require it anymore. They didn't used to, but it's a good idea. It doesn't always have to be the person to keep all the time. But if you win, having someone in charge of stuff takes a lot of stress off. Now, that said, most of this has been nuts and bolts. My point of view on this is going to be a little more on the what do you need to do to get ready to go kick the living crap out of everybody else out there because you're frickin' Litchfield and you want to win. So that side, this kind of interaction is fine, right? And keeping in mind, this is my view of how I do things. Vlad has a different method, Ajax has, everyone's going to have their own method. But when you do come in on the processional, that's your first place to start putting your will upon that Litchfield. So for the people that are just doing like this is no big deal. If I get up and I'm talking right in the face, it's a little bit different, right? So if I'm going back and forth and I'm talking to you guys while we're waiting on a procession, while I'm talking to the list, I'm trying to make sure you know that I'm fine with kicking the crap out of you in front of a whole bunch of people. And I don't care. It does not faze me because I'm just going to win. And you're going to lose. That thing does make a difference. Being able to put a little bit of is a good thing, so people can see how you're going to reign. But this is about winning at that point. So you can be quite pleasant, and you can kind of be that, or you can be a little more intimidating. I'm not a big fan of the walking up and I'm going to break your arm kind of intimidation. That kind of thing I'm not a fan of because that's not how our game plays. If we were MMA or boxing or something like that, that's not how we play. And especially when we get the rapier, that will definitely not be how we play. The calibration should not go up. Crown does that to people somewhat, but we need to be very cognizant of the fact that that's not the proper way to do it. It's not the proper way in heavy either. Like if you do a 1 to 10 scale for calibration and you normally throw 6s, crowns are usually 7s and 8s. And when you get close to the finals, people start to drift. So be aware of it. You know, in the case of like those of us that have been there before and or marshalling, it's kind of on us to try to pull people back a bit from that abyss, because that can go real dark real fast when people just not taking stuff and the whole thing goes sideways. A number of crowns, like the actual crowns in the SCA, have inscribed in them, you reign because they believe. The only reason any of us get to do this is because we've all agreed to be here to do this. You know, being a crown is not anything special. You've taken on a job. It is an honest-to-goodness job that has a lot of cool perks and several not-so-nice side tasks where you have to do certain things that are unpleasant potentially. You have to take all that in stride, and all of that is post-winning. You need to win first. Fight honorably, fight hard, and start prepping that weeks, if not months, ahead of the crown tournament. if you're just going out and refining your shop, that's wonderful. But you should also be traveling to places where you know people. Like, if I know Vlad is going to fight, I want to go fight him. I want to fight him in a practice where he doesn't care and stomp on him. Not beat him up bad, like they're not going to beat people, but win those fights cleanly, quickly, dominant. So that that little apartment space in his head hopefully has some space of last time we fought, he kicked my ass. Now, really good fighters, wipe them. Like, you just kind of go, I lost that fight, on the next one. And that's the attitude you have to have for that side. You can't let losses dominate your brain, any more than you can let wins cloud your vision. You have to go and focus on each one. For me, when I get to Crown, I'm already in the mindset of I just want to go kill people. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to talk to you. I want to go out, I want to fight, I want to kill you, and I want to go sit down, maybe have some water, and wait for my next fight. I'm not talking to my friends. I'm not gabbing over here. If someone stops by, I might scowl at them or something, but I want to be focused on my next opponent, and I want to go out and fight, and I want to save all that energy, because at the end, even winning it 4 times, I can tell you I still have adrenaline kicks at the end. If you're adrenaline kicking all day long, by the time you get to the end, you're done. I don't care how good you are. If you've been 4 or 5 rounds of hitting adrenaline each time, by the end, if someone's smart, I mean, you can see when people are adrenalizing, right? They get out there, their hands twitch a little bit, they're a little too hyper. Just wait. Give them 20 seconds. But you don't call them for 20 seconds. It's going to burn through their system, and they're going to have a drop. And when they drop, you attack them. Because they won't have the speed anymore. They'll be all burned out. And that's easy to take advantage of. So you have to learn how to control that, how to hide that. You got to learn how to press your advantage. And you need to know how to dominate the mental space as well as the physical space. Like, I'm not going to intimidate Rebna in a rapier fight, right? That's just not going to happen. You know, she knows she's good, she's doing that. But there are things you can do where you can mess with people in that fight to try to slowly pull them around. And all of you who have done any type of sparring will know that there are certain people, if they come out real hot, they're good. You beat them once bad, and they start to fall apart. And the more you beat them, the worse they get. You can do that without winning the fight. You can just give a pass where, like, maybe they escaped or they blocked something real good, but they'll know that wasn't great. And then you keep doing that, and people will slowly degrade as you do that. You don't have to jump on top of people to win a fight. You can just slowly pick away at their mental state, you can slowly pick away at their calm, and then get them to do something dumb. The easiest way to kill someone is to get them to make a mistake, right? So you don't always have to walk in and go, I'm the biggest and toughest and baddest, and kill them. Just get them to make a mistake, and then you kill them. Like, in heavy, I'm used to dominating the way, like, pushing my will on the people. In rapier, I can't do that nearly as well. So one thing Margalita showed me was, like, if things aren't going great, back out. Just leave. Reset it and go again. And sometimes that bugs me. Like, I've seen that in folks where, like, they feel like they've got you in a good spot, you leave, and they're like, God damn it. And then they try to set you up again, you leave, and they get frustrated. You know, sometimes maybe you don't leave one time, and they get a little overly relaxed, and then you can, you know, there's little mind games you can play with. And all of that can kind of start well before you get to the tournament. But once you're at the tournament, all business, drinks and water so you don't dehydrate. Hopefully you ate some carbs the night before the carb load. Do all the smart things you would do in any sport. Because you're going to burn way more energy than you think. You're going to feel like you're doing great for 2 or 3 rounds, and at the end of that day when you win, you are going to feel exhausted. You're going to be breathing hard, sweating everywhere, and you're like, I threw 10 shots. Why am I so tired? The round I won for Jenny, I threw 17 shots. 17! And I was sweating my butt off and tired by the time I was done. I could throw 17 shots in a single fight with someone in practice and barely probably notice. But you get that adrenaline. Why did you? That's fair, I did miss it. Yeah.
So how many of you have fought sleeve? Okay. So there are a few things. Sleeve is technically our highest, most intense rapier, right? Okay. There are a few things that will make this different than a sleeve. Okay. 1, the sleeve is at the pleasure of Her Highness. So your job, even though it's our most intense and it's the highest thing that we can achieve on the field, we still have, it's at the pleasure of the Highness. So our job is to make her feel honored, not necessarily to win the tournament. And so this is different. This is become what His Majesty just talked about. The pressure is a different goal. Even though we sometimes feel that same adrenaline, that same level of need to win this. The other thing is, the similar thing is the formats may change, okay? You may be, but the shot, you still have to be cognizant of it, but it's like, oh, well, the sleeve holder is going to be chosen versus the winner. And so that pressure goes on and off and on and off. So there's the difference in all of it. We have a tendency to back down to, oh, I have to be at my most honorable, versus my focus first is, yes, I have to fight with honor, but it's equal to winning. Okay? Those two become equivalent in a sense. So you have to think about that level of pressure, adrenaline. There's a lot of chit-chat at a sleeve a lot of the time. Okay? There is, if you've ever watched a crown tourney, the fighters don't chit-chat. They stay, get their headspace on, they don't talk. The consorts will. The pit crews focus on the fighter. In a sleeve, that's very, very important. So you have to learn, if you're going to fight the crown, how to change your support team, how to change your mentality, and learn how you fight best. Do you need to walk? Do you need to pace? Some of us do. We don't necessarily need to sit in a chair. We may need to take a stroll, burn off that adrenaline a little bit, and so we can get to that middle space. However it is, you need your support crew to help you do that, but you may need to get out of the chit-chat. You may need to have more intense focus. So figure that out, because it's not a sleeve. It's a sleeve plus, especially if you fight at a higher level.
And a key component to that when you're in the day of, every tournament's a little different, right? So we did our last one where we wanted to be the most pressure-built one we could manage because of the limits of what they can be. They all have to be double a limb, but we didn't do 2 out of 3s. And the reason you don't want 2 out of 3s is because it favors the better fighter. It always favors the better fighter. It feels like it favors the less experienced fighter, so you gives more chances. What you're really doing is you're giving a great fighter a mulligan. If you walk out and you one-shot them, they can go, all right, and then they can turn it back up and go, I wasn't focused, I should give you more respect than I did, and then they turn it on, and then you get two losses. Whereas if it had been a single fight, you won, you move on, they're losing, or they're eliminated. We wanted to see people on their game the whole day, so that's why we did single fight. It's a different kind of mindset. If you do get a 2 out of 3, and you are maybe feeling like you're a little off class, take it to them and take it to them again. Don't rest on your laurels. Don't be, I beat Lars, or whatever the case may be in this case, or yay, I beat Revna in a round. But the next fight has to be right back to the, I'm going to kill her. I'm going to kill her quickly, or however I need to do it, but I'm going to kill her. Be happy when you're done. And by done, I mean you won round. Don't sit there and celebrate in between rounds. Don't let people come up to you and say, you did really good. I don't give a shit. Go away. I want to sit here, drink my ice water, and wait for my next fight. I do not want to revel in premature celebrations because someone's happy I didn't die instantly or something. That's not victory. That's people placating. Don't accept it. Be ready to go out and win your crown tournament. You guys want to see a trick that Ron Walter uses? He's like a many times Duke of the mid-round, right? One of the best fighters we have in heavy in the SCA. So you know how you do honors, right? So here, grab my first. So you get up, salute the crown, salute your consort, and then when they do the salute your opponent, right? Like, so this whole time he's stoned. Just out here like, they salute your opponent, and he's like, hey, let's have a good fight, all right? Come on, let's go, all right? There we go, yeah. Look at that here. And he's doing it to take you out of your mind space, right? If you're ready to go and you're all revved up and suddenly this guy you thought was really scary comes out and he's hugging you and he's all smiles, and then when he turns around to go back, he's resetting his brain back to, I'm going to crush this. And you're like, what the fuck was that? You know, excuse the language, but it's what people, so those type of things you have to be kind of aware of. People do little things like like that because it works. You know, messing with people works. And it's not like it's underhand or illegal. It's just part of the game, right? Everything you do in a fight, it's no different than a feint. Like if you do a feint somewhere and hit someone, you're not cheating. You're just giving someone something fake and going somewhere else. Same idea. The brain space, the mental game, is at least 50% of your game in crime. You know, it's probably honestly more depending on the person, but you know, to use an example from people on the heavy side, currently probably our best active fighter is Lars. Our best fighter in Kingdom that's still around but not playing at the moment would be Dane. Dane, I think, is just ridiculously talented. They come at things in a different way. Dane is like a force of nature. Lars is a tactician who's got good physical skills, but like me, he's old. He's heavy. He's been around for it. Not everything on us works anymore. We know what's broken on us because we're honest with ourselves and prep, and then we try to take advantage of what we have left and try to minimize the drawbacks of what doesn't work. If I know I can't outrun you, or you're going to be quicker on your feet, I need to use your speed as my speed. You know, the part of the point, like with pull-ons, like Vlad's fantastic at keeping range. Like that is your whole thing, in my opinion. Like your best thing you do is you know exactly what your range needs to be, and you keep that range all the time. For me, my thing I think I do best is like Sword and Shieldman especially. They want to run you over, and I let them run into me because they don't expect me to be there anymore. Even after 20 years of being in this kingdom, you still get people that are like, "Why is he still here?" And then you get. So it's knowing how to use your advantages and knowing what you're good at, and then using that against other people is really a thing. Like I know he tries to get me to dive at him all the time, and he just backs to the side and gets an easy shot back. For me, for lots of people, it's like give them a look, twitch some direction, they move in thinking that's the hole, and that's actually the attack. So, Rapier, for those of you who are going to do that in Rapier counts, you have very similar things. I don't know every in and out of Rapier, not that skilled at it yet, but there are things like that. Ask your mods, work through some of those things, and then one other really, really key thing. A month out, stop adding new things to your game. You know, a month out, start switching into the I need to focus on the things I do well and sharpen them, make them good, make them flawless. And then 2 weeks out, maybe consider very, very light work, maybe not full on sparring. It's a little different with heavy because you know you could actually bash someone and break it, get a bad bruise, it can affect you. But stuff like that can still happen to Rapier too. So don't dismiss the fact of taking a little bit and don't lose your edge. But maybe don't go crazy those last 2 weeks before prep. Last week, maybe just work with some trusted people that you can just make sure you're not getting tight or sloppy. And then when you show up, put it all on the line. You know, if you lose, you lose. Be graceful about it. You know, be honest with yourself. Be a good person, which everybody in our kingdom is. Even when you've seen a crown and someone looks like they're screwing it up bad, they don't mean to do that. Nobody walks out there to be a cheat. In front of all those people, with all the cameras we have these days, I guarantee you nobody's going out there with the idea of, I'm going to be the biggest cheat this kingdom's ever seen. That is not something that happens. People get too wrapped up in the moment. They get situationally a little thick because adrenaline, because desire gets to be too much. It's just hard on them, and they malfunction. Or, not everything it touches you feels good. You know, a little more of a thing in heavy than right here again, because
Actually, that's actually quite true. So, when you talk about calibration going up, calibration will go up in Rapier, but things that will also go up more likely, as you said, are physically not feeling shots. Because things that you would normally feel with less adrenaline are going to be just total unawareness. In places that are a little more heavily padded, either because you're a heavily padded human, your armor is a little different, and on rigid areas. And so people are just going to miss blows. And then it's going to ramp up the adrenaline more.
Bibs and Bourgets.
Bibs and Bourgets particularly. Another thing that will happen is people are going to change their measure or their perception so that I really want to reach this person. Not because I need to hit them harder, because that's where most hard hits come from, is a measure problem. So I think I'm anticipating you really want to reach Bazyli, okay? And he's a longer guy, so I'm going to really need to put that extra then I'm going to hit him harder because he's not really that far away. And then that's what's going to happen.
And something that will be interestingly unique for the Rapier rounds is there will be some heavy fighters who show up in those Rapier rounds that do not fight a lot of Rapier. And again, they will probably come in with the absolute best of intentions, but I have to actively think about my calibration my first couple fights when I do Rapier because my default is so much different from heavy. So I have to do that. And when I'm fighting, like in the couple times I've been in the sleeve or anything that requires a little more focus, I have to sometimes be careful of that too, because when you start to build up into that moment of like you're having a great fight and it's really high intensity, it's very easy to fall into bad habits for one that's normal for the other. So some of the heavies might need to be more actively marshaled. Be careful on that. Or the opponents need to be okay with saying, hey, that looks like maybe a touch here or something. I know as Midwesterners in general, we don't like the conflict of calling people out, but I honestly think something hit, call a hold, have a discussion. There's nothing wrong with talking about this. Personally, from a Crown standpoint, I'd rather see the opponents call a hold, have a nice big discussion about it, decide where they're at on that. When they both agree that's where they're at, have it marshaled loudly announced to the crowd so they know, and then continue. That's so much better than people just not talking at all and just starting to stab the crap out of you. That's not, doesn't make it look good for anybody. It puts a lot of pressure on your consorts because, I mean, if you're having a bad day and your consort's looking at you like, I don't know, they don't want to pull you out, but they don't want you embarrassing them. I mean, you're taking their honor and field. And we've been trying to make that more of a thing for our consorts to feel more involved in that part. You know, you're a consort, you are not armed camping. I like to say I am armed camping this time around because that was my goal. But, you know, Wu is doing most of that. I'm just trying to do my fair share of the work, but this is her time to shine. But you aren't. When you are out there being a consort, you are an active part of that team. And you need to protect your honor just as much as they do, just as much as their opponents in their consort. So if things aren't going right, call a hold. Like, you can do that from the sidelines too. If you yell hold, hold's a hold. You can summon over your person and have a talk with them. It may not be pulled off the field. It might be, hey, this isn't looking great, clean it up. Or something's not going right. Are you feeling okay? Is there something wrong with you? Like, you need water? Like, there's a lot of things that can go wrong that aren't ill intent. But if you let them go loose, they will become ill intent.
Protect your fighter, okay, in all ways, because they don't want to look like shit. They don't want to feel like shit. They don't want to be in that. And consorts often know the fighter just as well as their pitch or whatever. Help them be as good as they can.
Absolutely. And I guarantee you, if you thought about who's the thickest fighter in your respective area, you'll have some results. And I guarantee you, they are not the villain of their own story. They do not think of themselves as that. They probably honestly are trying their best. They're just having a hard time doing it for whatever reason. And maybe that's a trending issue, maybe that's a personality issue, but every group of fighters of any sort where you have to make a judgment call on whether someone's good, like, hey, we're not knocking each other out, then there's going to be people that fall into that category, there's going to be people that are perfect. There's a whole range in between. There are very, very few people that are perfect. There's a lot more people that group up by accident, and it doesn't make them bad people. It just means they're having a hard time. But that's where a group, like, to use the phrase, it takes a village, right? If you have everybody, and we're all honest with each other, and we get out there and talk about, hey, I didn't like that. You know, they might have a legitimate reason why they don't think the shot was good, that maybe from your perspective didn't seem that way. But that's where the conversation comes in. And then if we have good marshals paying attention in an active fashion, not calling you dead, but paying attention, so when they're called upon, they can say, well, that looked like maybe the sleeve, or that looked like maybe it bounced off this, or it was a slap. Things that can be very difficult to feel or see at the moment. That's their job outside of making sure you're safe. So take advantage of it. One thing I would say, and then I'll let you go, sorry. If you ask someone their opinion on a shot and they say, I think you're dead, you ask them. Don't be that person that's like, hey, what do you think? Well, I don't think so. Well, screw you, I'm not thinking. Then why'd you ask? Don't do that. It makes it look really bad. So just take it, move on to another day. And I get that can be hard sometimes, but gotta be, that's the way to do it, to be the right non-holders.
For instance, Tara, he fences quite a bit, but he's like, no, you can stab me harder. I'm like, great. Grand night. It's touch. I'm touching you with my dagger. You're dead. And he's like, oh, you're right. Well, you could stab me a little harder. No, that's wrong. You're supposed to be a leader. Remind them, regardless of their station, remind them that the rules are up. There's nothing wrong with that. Especially most of us are marshals anyway. So it's like, no, dude, that's not right. And, say you may want to be a mod, maybe do the program a bit, teach other people better, nothing wrong with that. I do that with characters sometimes. But I get that harder and it's like, I'm better than that. I don't need to step around. No.
So, we got a little bit of time left. Do you guys have any questions for us? Except for Clem. Go ahead.
I would like to hear your thoughts on combining kindness with intimidation. Because when it gets to the traditions kind of things like it's like, hey, I just see it here, it's like, there's nothing to get into that whole mindset. So it's giving this, I've had people complain for using the tactic of being nice and being on the headspace. Is that
So for me, like a heavy practice, for instance, right? I don't do this a heck of a lot of Rapier because I'm spending so much time just trying to be better at Rapier, right? Like I'm bringing in a lot of heavy stuff and trying to figure out what I can apply to it, and then the tactic bit of it, I'm just keeping there for tournaments. I don't use it in practice. However, when I was doing this more heavy, setting it up, I would often pick a moment where like, okay, every motherfucker dies. Like, just that kind of attitude. Like, brain, words, the whole thing. It's just like, from here until the next 5 minutes, when I fight someone, I'm just going to go. And they might beat you. Like, it's a thing where you can lose, but you definitely want to, like, go with that thought process. Like, this is my field, I'm going to win and do the thing. And then, when you're done with it, you're done with it. Then go back. If you're...
My moment is, every time it says salute your consort, I always scream Gaia. As soon as I say my consort's name out loud, it's on. Because now, she's acknowledged that all in this extreme, someone's gonna die. She does. I want to advance.
You're definitely going to get high intensity fights in the Rapier crowd, just like we do in the heavy. But not every heavy practice or heavy event will be that. Crown is kind of singular in that focus, and the farther you get, the more intense it gets. So you will see people that are fantastically good fighters that fail in the semifinals because their brains are sharp. They go out. They make dumb mistakes. They think so much they can barely move. And it's just not their time to win yet. Not to pick on the lad, but you won how many crowns before you won? Like 18? Okay. So, but then after he got beyond so, but after he won his first round, he hasn't lost one. Like, it just, there's a lot of people have that kind of click where when they hit the point where they're ready to win, they win. And now, it's not to say you can't run into a crown where you're going to have like 4 dupes show up. Well, not all going to win, right? Only one is, so it's possible you can lose. But the thing is, when people hit a certain point, it goes from being this is tough to being this is the expected outcome, right? In your own brain. And so it's easier.
To more to your point about kindness, when a person comes and is like, hi, how are you? There is also a sense, and whether you use this as a tactic or not, when you talk to someone like that, there's also a sense of obligation in the person that you're talking to reciprocate. That somehow I, or whoever you're talking to, must then be kind and effusive back to you. Now, that can create a sense of unease in someone who is getting into the mindset of, I need to kill you in about 5 minutes. Okay? I'm getting into that framework. I'm not kind and effusive maybe as a person. So I don't want to do that tactic. That may be a tactic on your part. That may be just your personality. And so maybe people may respond to that. oh, hi, I guess I have to be kind of, that's so nice to see you, Clinton, and now they're like off their game. Or they may just say, if they're not, like, yeah, whatever. Cool. Bye. See you.
I'll do it. I'll do it before honors, though. Do it before honors. Because then after that, you have the time to get right back into it.
Yeah.
Do you have a question to this, or do you have something else?
I just wanted to add to that you can talk to your consort beforehand, and what I do for Tam is I interview, I come in, and I have an energy. I'm not so I talk to Tam, and we know your cornerman can also assist with this. But you can come in and just kind of be like, oh,
I would absolutely do that. I would do that.
Sure shit.
I would just like to point out that, that being kind calls you like a increasing kind of response. And so that's, there's a time when he calls out Gaia, he's charged, and then Gaia is ready to compete, right? It does use up a big chunk of mental energy.
I'm also screaming Gaia because I'm literally telling you that I'm going to win. Sorry.
Gave a hug to underneath the same right here control the situation because you are the one who's the energy forward. The energy off the field, that's going to automatically translate to that energy forward on the field.
Yep, all fair. As long as you're staying within the rule set.
Yeah. And everybody has different ways of doing that. So you can be energy forward in your way. You can be energy forward, you might be, however, Nicola has a lovely thing. You may be energy forward in your salute. You may have a progress, the salute kata that you do that's like, okay, do, and I'm on.
That's how Piero too, Mom.
Piero, watch Piero. Watch Piero.
When he does this, he's over here.
Just doing eye contact in the processional. Like every time I go into processional, I look at every single one of the people on each side as I go up, and then I make sure when I'm having my speech, I'm looking at each person while I'm talking. And a lot of people just have a hard time with eye contact. And here's the thing: if you do, this is not the job for you. You have to be able to, you literally have to be able to walk up in front of people like this and just have discussions, have this be no problem whatsoever. And it can be 100, 200 people. Some people have charisma, some of us have to work hard. So, and not everybody can talk like Brother. Somehow he just pulls that out of thin air. Right? So, but basically you have to be able to get in front of people. And when you do, like what you were saying, it's how you're going to run it, but it's also a place to show that you are ready for this job. If you cannot get up in front of people and make some type of speech, you are going to struggle mightily if you win that tournament. That is hard, because you are immediately going to have to go up and you're either going to get your hats right down there, or you're going to get them in evening court. Either way, you're going to have to come up in front of everybody, recite an oath to them, because that oath is to the kingdom, even if the crown is taken. And you are saying you are going to do these things to do good for the kingdom, basically. And you got to be able to walk up and do it, and mean it, because you're putting your own honor on the line at that point for the next year. So you can do that multiple times. You're going to have people come up and swear fealty to you when you step up to coronation. That's a two-way street. If you haven't already had this discussion with people, fealties are not just to the crown. The crown is swearing back to you. You both have responsibilities. So, and then you have the extra fun things for people that have oaths to people potentially outside of that. If you were to win the crown, you can't really be in fealty anymore to the person you swore to, because they're in fealty to you when you get there. So that causes a whole other set of conversations, right? Like most people will suspend it, right? You'll hand back the regalia until the end of the reign, then you redo the ceremony, maybe something like that. Every once in a while, people just like, screw it, it'll be fine. But to my mindset, you may know you should suspend that or reset it and then later redo it again, just because it keeps it all clear in my mind. But people do their own things. But if you can't get up in front of people and talk to them, and if you can't work, this is a tricky one too, right? Projecting your voice enough for people to hear. You don't have to scream at people. And if you've done heraldry work, you know that. You just have to project your voice up. But it can be really get rooms like this aplenty. They eat sound. Like, I feel like I'm being pretty loud, but to Jean Robert, I'm probably just barely audible. Yeah. So it eats it fast.
Or if you have an injury and you can't sit up straight.
Yeah.
My
great.
brain was tough because I couldn't be comfortable enough to project. And I would get yelled at by Katsu and Robin all the time. I'm like, I'm sorry.
So
It's like, you're usually loud. I'm like, not when I'm like shrimping all the time. My neck hurts.
any other questions? Oh, first off, cool. And anybody else have anything? And so feel free to ask anything kind of thing. I'm not banishing anybody today unless you make it.
Questions about gathering people, having people. How do I know if I have people? Okay, where to find people? Because having people is really important. Even if you've got a small group of people, how to ask people to be people. Because that really is important to caring for Crown and raising. And it feels a little like, but I'm embarrassed of what people say no, and who do I ask? You know, it's hard to ask favors. And you know more people than you think you do.
It's hard to have someone pick up your stuff. It's hard to have someone open the door for you. It's hard to have people nod and salute you while you're walking along just because you're doing a thing, or you happen to be on a hurry someplace and you don't notice there's 5 people sitting down, and as you're going by, they all stand up.
Let's go for them.
And like, they're just trying to do what they think is right and honor for their part of the game. But we're all Midwest. And that type of thing usually grates on our sensibilities because people's paying attention to us. You have to learn somehow to put that in check a little bit, because part of the whole point why we have this is because we're trying to reenact that part without all the horrible bits. Like, ideally, none of the horrible bits. But you want to reenact the good bits. That's what we all kind of enjoy about our game, right? We like having medieval flavor to things. We like having someone hand out awards and lead the troops and do all the things. It's fun. And I think that we could probably go to like the West where we do one every 4 months. Like, the amount of time involved sometimes feels a little long. Some of the kingdoms only do like a month and a half, 2 months airtime and like a 9-month reign. They think we're nuts for having 5 months airtimes, more or less, 5 or 6. And they're kind of right, they're kind of wrong. If you're a first-time reigner, that extra time is wonderful to set up your people, to set up your plan, get everything lined up so you can hit the ground running. That's great. 3-4 times in, it's a lot of time with nodding, smiling, and trying to keep my mouth shut. So, you know, and you don't have to be keeping your mouth shut because it's a bad thing. It's just, it's not your time, right? There's one set of crowns at a time, and the air time, seen, not heard, kind of applies to a point. Like, you certainly go out and do your thing in the air, but you have to make sure you're not, by putting up what you want to do when your time is there, don't subvert the current majesty. Make sure you're always in communication. Like, we have a team. Jack and Axel and Lou and I talk all the time, and we are very happy with some of the stuff they've done, and that's great. We want to support them on that and help them do a great job for the kingdom. From our point of view, we want to MC the party and make sure the trains run. You know, do all the things, solve as many of the problems as we can, make it fun for them. They're going to bring a whole new set of wonderful things to our kingdom because they come from a very different kingdom. They have a different perspective on reigning. And I think everyone's going to be very, very pleased with it. First-time raiders, kind of the same thing. We can't ban dukes anymore as a group, per se. My second time around with Sigrid, we banned everybody above count. We're doing it revolving. Yeah. So we wanted new people, right? Because we had a lot of dukes and duchesses, only a couple of countesses. And then not a lot else. We want variety, so it builds up the kingdom. If just because something's always been done away, doesn't mean you have to keep doing it. Have more options, like the newcomer rules, right? Great idea. But keeping track of all the mugs and trying to get more mugs gets to be difficult. Because if you give out 10 at an event, you run out of them real quick, and they are pricey. And you're already paying a lot to be arranged anyway, and that just adds up, and it's hard to ask people to give you more mugs. So what we added is an option. Like, we've got plenty of mugs right now, but we had the option of adding like Kingdom Mark Toms, right? So they're not super expensive, but they're kind of neat. They're still a Northshield thing, but they give people the options, and they will come up with their own version of what they want to do. It doesn't always have to dogmatically stay a certain way. We had a few issues with the toilet, where people were falling and getting hurt on occasion of it. We don't want kids getting hurt, we don't want the runners getting hurt. So we've been trying to come up with either, let's have the kids meet over there, let's do this version, we do like a little tug of war. We're trying to give different options on that so that nobody feels obligated to make Redmond run away from a ravening corridor every time. It's stuff like that. So be aware that you can do lots of things, they don't have to always be the same thing. And if you're in doubt, like if you're just not sure, like is this a bad idea to change this tradition, go find one of the craggy old dicks. Now, just ask people who have been there a few times and see what they think. If they really think there's a problem, they will honestly tell you. Royal peers are excellent for that more than any other thing because they are kind of the holders of the knowledge of what it is to race. And you can write it all down. It's just not the same as talking to people that have done it. They'll give you more reflection on what's going on, your work. So take advantage. If you're rating and you're not, if you go to rating, just go talk to some old people. I mean, we're old, we love to talk. So it'll be fine. But it'll help you. It really will. And Duchesses in particular. I personally feel like we go back to being stick jocks pretty much all the way around. Like, you step down, it's like, oh, you're a duke, you're a count, whatever, and we just go back to fighting. Nobody comes and asks us questions, but, Sigrid or Petronella or, just about anybody that's trained more than once usually will get a ton of questions. They're almost like Northshield moms, right? Like, people know they were the first queen for somebody that got an award. They were pivotal to their early years on, and so that tends to be much more, sticks with people in a good way than myself or Blaine or Adrian. It just, we're kind of interchangeable in that sense. Me throw sticks look good, not really so much the thing everybody wants to see in me. So, any other questions? Commentary? I don't see the tomatoes, so I feel pretty safe on that one.
Anybody have, if you have another thing to add, and then feel free to come to any of them, afterwards if you, one thing you want to ask or say. Learn how to tell people what to do also, just like delegate or direct. Because also asking, you actually have to I've never told anybody, you need to carry this. Or I need you to do this. Because people will come up to you and say, well, what do I do? Or you will have to tell them what you want. And I'm not used to having servants or things that I have to tell them things because I'm in charge now of this kingdom or this, court.
So something of interest on that brings up it's not so much the winning, how to prep the winning, but after you've already won. We have a Monday night staff meeting, it's just our Chamberlain and Luana. We have a Thursday night staff meeting every week that's either those same three people to talk about upcoming events, and every other week it's everybody on our staff. We have heads of department for our staff that we just do touch points with them, and then they have staff that they talk to and work things through. So that's just that one. Then you've got a planning meeting every week that you're going to an event for a court, because you have to talk with the signets, the heralds, who your herald's going to be at that time, work out a black copy of that whole thing, line up all your awards. Make sure you have all those things set up so you know what you're doing in court as best you can. You have peerage meetings, some of them online, some of them in person. You will have once a week, if you keep on top of it, you're going to do an award rec thing where you're going to get all the awards at the end of that week, and then decide what events you're going to put them in. And you need to put those 6 to 8 weeks out to give your scribes a chance. And then you're going to have to look at the calendar and make sure what things you want to go to. Are you going to do monthly scholarity meetings? Are you going to do the minimum or something in between? Personally, I like once a month. You only have to do 2. That doesn't help anything. That is not even the bare minimum. You need to keep people on track somewhat, and if they meet more, they can go over the points, and then the meetings themselves are simple. They're not always a flaming dumpster fire that you have to solve in a 4-hour mega meeting. You can go 1 hour, see where people are at, whatever person's having the hardest time, focus that down, and then move on. So you're going to have lots of meetings. You're going to spend a decently large amount of money. It is just the nature of it. If you go to a bunch of events, it will seem fine. If you do 30 events a year, 35 events a year, you probably won't notice a thing. If you go to 10 events a year, you're about to spend a lot of money just on gas, tires, and hotels. And the kingdom gives you $1,500 for your whole reign. Everything else is either people donate it or you take it out of your own pocket. And people, by the way, are exceedingly generous. It's not like it's people are cheap or anything. A lot of sites won't charge you. Like they'll let you in. Usually your chamberlain because they also are traveling a ton. But you'll get a +1 very often. Some groups have it built into their laws. Some groups do it just nice and easy. But yeah, you will have weekly something dramatic happen that will take your attention, your spoons. Sometimes you'll have multiple things. And we haven't even gone over any of the maps. Because hopefully, if you rain, you never have to deal with a bad thing ever. But if it does, not only do you not get to talk about it with anyone, which is seemingly frustrating, but you also have very little actual control about it. But you're going to get on the hook for making sure it happens. Because bad thing happens. It goes to the senator on you. It goes up to society. Society makes a decision, but it's kind of on you to bring it to the people. And that is something you have to do without telling people. It's difficult.
It is really. I've got three things. Nuts and bolts, thought, and number one, nuts and bolts. When you become heir and crown, you get regalia. You are responsible for that regalia. Get insurance to cover the regalia. A longbow is lost. Replacement cost on a longbow regalia is $1,000.
Yeah, guess how much this thing costs? It's like $3 grand.